You know, we like to think of ourselves as the pinnacle of evolution, right? The undisputed masters of this planet. But what if our dominance isn't really about raw intelligence? What if it's built on something, well, something far stranger and way more powerful?
Okay, look at this. About 30,000 years ago, a human hand was pressed against a cave wall in France. This is so much more than just ancient art. It's a message, one that's reaching out to us across thousands of years. It's a declaration, I was here, from an ancestor who was living through a time that would change everything, the cognitive revolution.
But, before we can even get to that revolution, we have to understand where we started. And for most of our history, humans were, to be honest, not a big deal. We were just another animal, minding our own business, stuck somewhere in the middle of the food chain. We were actually more often the hunted than the hunter.
To really put it in perspective, check out this timeline. I mean, if the entire history of the universe was just one day, and life itself appeared in the early morning, our species, Homo sapiens, we only show up a few seconds before midnight. And that event that truly set us apart, the cognitive revolution, that happened in the very last fraction of a second.
So what happened when we suddenly scrambled our way to the top? Well, think about predators like lions. They evolved slowly. The whole ecosystem had time to adjust. They became these majestic, confident rulers. We, on the other hand, made what you might call an over-hasty jump. The historian Yuval Noah Harari puts it perfectly. We became like banana republic dictators. All of a sudden we're in charge, but we're filled with the fears and anxieties of an underdog. And that anxiety, it has made us uniquely cruel and dangerous.
So what on earth caused this sudden, world-altering leap? Well, around 70,000 years ago, something happened. Maybe it was an accidental genetic mutation, something that just rewired the sapiens' brain. Whatever it was, this was the dawn of the language revolution.
But hold on, other animals can communicate, right? Even other early humans had some form of language. So what was it about our new language that allowed us to literally conquer the world? What was our secret ingredient?
Sure, a monkey can shout, "Careful, a lion," to warn its troop. And that's a super useful survival skill. But just communicating about objective reality, things you can see and touch, that's pretty common in the animal kingdom. That wasn't our game-changing advantage.
This is the difference. Our big breakthrough wasn't about being able to talk about the lion. It was the ability to say, the lion is the guardian spirit of our tribe, a symbol, something that doesn't physically exist. This was the crucial turning point. We learned how to talk about fictions. And this is what we call fictive language. It's the power to speak about things like myths, gods, money, nations, laws, and even corporations as if they were real. I mean, think about it. These are all things you can't actually point to in the physical world. They exist only in our collective imagination. Now, I know this might sound a little abstract, but this ability to create and share fictions was the key that unlocked our biggest biological limitation. It allowed us to fundamentally change the way we cooperate with each other. And that limitation, it has a number, 150. This is roughly the maximum number of people any one of us can truly know and trust on a personal level. It's a natural size limit for any group that's held together by just social grooming and gossip. You go beyond that number and social order starts to break down. So yeah, better planning and gossiping could get us to pretty cohesive groups of about 150 people. But it was the ability to talk about things that aren't real that completely shattered this limit. Suddenly, it allowed for cooperation between massive numbers of strangers, and it allowed for incredibly rapid social innovation. Because let's face it, you can change a story a lot faster than you can change your DNA.
So how did we go from these small bands of 150 to cities of thousands and then empires of millions? The secret was fiction. By believing in the same common myths, the same gods, the same ancestral spirits, the same national identity, countless strangers could suddenly trust each other and all work towards a common goal.
And once you really grasp this idea, you start seeing these shared myths, these imagined orders, absolutely everywhere. They are the invisible architecture that holds up our entire civilization.
For example, take the Code of Hammurabi from ancient Babylon. It wasn't just a list of rules. No, it was a story, a myth that said these laws came directly from the gods. And because everyone shared that belief, hundreds of thousands of people could live together in a stable, predictable society.
Now let's jump forward nearly 3,500 years. The American Declaration of Independence is built on another powerful myth, the idea that all men are created equal and have certain unalienable rights.
Rights aren't a biological reality. You can't find them in a DNA sequence. But because millions of people believe in this story, it's organized an entire nation.
And you see this exact same power at work in religion. The belief in a shared spiritual story can coordinate the actions of millions of people all across the globe. It brings them together in places like Mecca with a common purpose and this deep sense of trust, even though they are all complete strangers to one another.
So ever since the cognitive revolution, we sapiens have been living in a kind of dual reality. On one hand, you've got the objective reality of rivers, trees, and lions. But on the other, you have this imagined reality of gods, nations, and money. And over time, this imagined reality has actually become even more powerful than the objective one. Think about it. The very survival of actual rivers and lions now depends on the grace of imagined things like corporations and nations.
But this unique power, this incredible ability to weave reality out of stories, has come with a heavy price. It has made us the masters of the planet, but has it made us any better?
It's a really challenging question to ask ourselves. We've gone from crafting flit spearheads to launching spaceships. We've built massive empires and global trade networks. But has all of this progress actually decreased the amount of suffering in the world?
Well, the historical record is pretty grim. Our great empires and economies were often built on oppression and exploitation. Our rapid ascent triggered one ecological disaster after another, wiping out entire species wherever we went. From the moment we started telling these powerful stories, we became the single most destructive force in the history of life on Earth.
Which brings us right back to our first question. What if our defining trait isn't intelligence in the way we usually think about it? Logic, reason, problem solving. What if our true superpower, the one that gave us the world, is simply that we are and have always been the most masterful storytellers the planet has ever known?